Welcome to you all. I'm Joanne Mouse and I'm one of the co-chairs on the WAMM board. So happy to have you here. Thank you. This is 2019 annual meeting, so I hope you're here for that reason. And you should all have a name tag and have had something to eat, so good. First of all, I want to introduce our staff members that work in our office, and they're wonderful people. One is Kristen Dooley, and she's standing up over there. And the other person is Sophia. Myers Kelly, office manager. And just a reminder, Nikki is walking around with a sandwich board, and I think there's only 2 spots left. So thank you to everyone that's contributed. To buy a bill, that's right. I thought maybe we should have people stand up who are the current board members of WAMM. So if you could stand up or wave, that would be wonderful. The current members. And how about the past members? There's quite a few who have been past members. And welcome to all the members of the WAMM group. And to not waste any time, we're going to have Sarah Martin come up here and introduce our speaker.
All right, we knew she'd pack them in. Everybody wants to know what's going on up at line 3, and so here we are. After this, we've got work to do, right? We can sit and listen today, but we've got work to do. Winona is a tireless activist, farmer, author. She has written 5 books. She's a public speaker, environmentalist, and economist. She was born in 1959 in Los Angeles and raised in Oregon. She's an enrolled member of the Mississippi Band and Anishinaabe of the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota. Her father was an actor in westerns as well as an Indian activist. Her mother was a Jewish art professor from the Bronx. She credits her parents for passing the spirit of activism on to her. Winona became involved in Native American issues as a student at Harvard and came to know that the problems afflicting Native nations were not endemic to the people, but the result of centuries of government exploitation, abuse, and poor policies. At 18, she was the youngest person ever to address the United Nations on Indian issues. After graduating from Harvard with a bachelor's degree in Native Economic Development, Winona moved to White Earth. Her first job there was working as a principal at the high school, but she soon became involved with a lawsuit to recover lands promised by an 1867 promise, right? We know about those promises. By an 1867 federal treaty to the Anishinaabe people. Just a second here. Take a drink of coffee. The lawsuit was dismissed, no surprise, not because it wasn't a good case, obviously, but because of our system. But once it was dismissed, she founded the White Earth Land Recovery Project to reclaim these lands that had been stolen by the U.S. government at the behest of the logging industry. Although she often found herself embroiled in losing legal battles, she persevered, securing grants and winning a Reebok Human Rights Award. With these funds, she and White Earth have reclaimed 1,400 acres and hope to acquire 30,000 more in the next several years. The White Earth Land Recovery Project is one of the largest reservation-based nonprofit organizations. It works to reforest the lands and revive cultivation of wild rice. It has started an Ojibwe language program, a herd of buffalo, and a wind energy product, and there's a lot of stuff to buy over here. In 1985, she founded the Indigenous Women's Network, which focuses on giving visibility and empowering Indigenous women to participate in political, social, and cultural change. In 1993, together with folk music duo the Indigo Girls, LaDuke founded Honor the Earth, a project which raises the awareness of Native environmental issues to help Native communities survive. As program director, she works nationally and internationally on the issues of climate change. 2 years ago, and I think a lot of you have a postcard on your chair, she began raising funds to buy land on which she aims to create a hemp and heritage food farm to create local wealth and train young people in farming indigenous food. And then, of course, she ran as the Green Party vice presidential candidate in 1996 and 2000 with Ralph Nader. I voted for them. She also is a leader in the opposition to the construction of several pipelines. In 2017, she was at Standing Rock, lots, where the Sioux tribe and supporters fought to protect the tribe's drinking water and ancestral lands from the Dakota Access Pipeline. Who in this room also was up at Standing Rock? I know several people were. I know that's These days, she is working full out to stop the disaster at Enbridge Line 3, which will carry tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada, through Minnesota to Superior, Wisconsin. And who in this room has been working on that? All right. By next month, we'll all be raising our hands. Winona has received several awards, including the Anne Bancroft Award, the Thomas Merton Award, and the Ms. Woman of the Year, along with the Indigo Girls. In 1994, she was nominated by Time Magazine as one of America's most promising leaders under 40. In 2007, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Winona is a mother, an auntie, and a grandmother, and we are so honored and so excited and so thrilled to have her here today. Winona.
Hello, my relatives. Ani Nindo Magado. Dinesi Quinn, Jinikas, Makwendo, Dim, Gababani Kog, Ishkanaganing, and Dunjaba, and Dunjaba Ma King. I come from this land here. Aking, Aking. That's the land that we call it Anishinaabe Aking. You know what it means? It means the land to which the people belong. Isn't that great? Instead of private property, state DNR, private, you know what I mean? It's like the land to which the people belong. So thank you so much for the honor of being here with you. I'm gonna go see my good friend Deb Bancroft tomorrow. She's one of my girls who said, "We gotta come to this." I was like, "Of course I'm gonna come to that." I want to be really grateful to WAMM for all your years of service to civil society, standing up against stupid, of which there's been plenty, right? And making stuff happen. You know, one sister's like, yeah, the first time I got arrested was at Seabrook in 1977. I was like, go girl. I was at Seabrook, I think I was at Seabrook in 78. I'm just been if I can get arrested. I wasn't that cheeky. It was you, right? So, yeah, arrested Seabrook. It's like, how many of you have been arrested before? I just want to know. Look at that, what a bunch of troublemakers. Good, that's it. Wait, one more time. I just want, this is the highest rate except for if I raise a hand in my community. And we're all arrested because we're brown. You guys are all rested because you're doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing. Thank you. Thank you again. It's a real honor to be here with you today. I passed out all this literature to you. I'll go over it some, and I'm just going to visit some, but I just wanted to I stayed up till like 2 a.m. a couple nights ago getting this right. I was like, oh, let me just try to explain how confusing it is.
Very good.
It is, it's pretty good, huh? Yeah, we're due taking, for the next, this is the first round, but anyway, so this, this winter, in the midst of winter, I find my invincible summer. That's Camus, right? And I was like, in the midst of winter, it was a brutal winter, wasn't it? It was like a brutal winter, and I think about that because we take a lot of stuff for granted. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the midst of winter, like, who are we? And maybe we better just, I was like, you just got to slow down, take a breath, and think what you can learn in the midst of winter. You're not supposed to be a time when we still a little bit. Take a little reflection, and just think about what it is we're going to do and plan that invincible and beautiful summer. So I've been working on that. I think a lot of us have. What does it look like as we look ahead? And so that came to me. And then, I was thinking about a lot. We live in a pretty beautiful place. I was traveling some on the road this spring. I, travel here and there, and I come back, and literally there's like eagles mating. You know what I'm saying? There's like eagles mating up north, and all the birds are coming home. My lake is full of sounds. So there's the trumpeter swans and all the geese, and everybody's all busy announcing their return, and then my family just went out in the sugar bush. We're out making sugar, and there's this raising, I don't know what you call it, like this bed up north of what day it's gonna run. I'm saying it's like, because it's just like, in climate change, you don't know. A couple times it ran like in February the last couple of years, right? And so you're like, climate change changes things, right? But, so it's running really good at Mille Lacs. But, I was like, what a good land the Creator has provided here. We live in a place where you can, see the eagles mate, where you can drink the water from a lake, where you can get sugar from a tree. You can get rice from, all of these lakes of the north, and, I was on Amy Goodman here a couple months ago, and she said, where do you live? Describe it. I said, Amy, I live where the wild things are. But it's true. There's wolves and there's frogs where I live. You know what I'm saying? There's lynx, there's bears. And I was like, I just want to keep that. That's like my agreement. It's like a covenant. I refer to it as the covenant you have with the Creator. I was taught that by a Hopi. He said it's our covenant with the water. And I think about that because we have this agreement as humans that, in our teachings as Anishinaabe people, we're told, we have these responsibilities. It's not rights. We have a super rights-based society. I'm like, what's the responsibilities that go with that? Everybody want to talk about the right to this. I was like, what's the responsibility? But we have this covenant, that's this agreement, where you take care of things. You put your tobacco and your prayers out, you are grateful. You are grateful that the Creator gave us so much. And then you do what you need to take care of that, and you always honor that. That's the covenant. We call it Minneapolis, or the good life. So I am reminded of that, and I'm reminded of that at this moment, and of course, ever so grateful to you for your work in keeping that. At this time, we look at this spring, and I'm full of hope for that which we are going to do, and I'm also looking out there at some daunting things, as we all are. A couple of thoughts I just want to share with us. Remember, there's going to be a post-Trump era. Y'all got that, right? There's going to be a post-Trump era, right? And we're just trying to keep the damage to a minimum. And out the stupidity. Like, I don't want to dwell a lot about that. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of stupidity and white male privilege entitlement that look really ugly, right? We all see how ugly that looks, right? And I think people are like, that's like not good. I think people are like, that's not good. And I also think that, like, I think about this winter, and I've raised 7 children now, got a whole slew of grandchildren. And like, some of those kids went out during that polar vortex riding in their cars. So I was like, that's the dumbest thing. Of course, a couple of them hit the ditch too. It's like, what kind of dumb person does that? I said, but that's what a fossil fuel economy does to you. It's like being jacked up on steroids and cocaine or something. You're like, well, I'm just gonna go out with my little SUV and like in the polar vortex, ground blizzard, because I can. I mean, isn't that like the Minnesota, like, you know, like we're really badass, that's what we do. I was like, that's dumb. That's dumb. Maybe we should just learn, you know, because I think that part of the challenge in this, you know, because we're all in this fossil fuels economy. You know, I'm right with you, and we were all there in the anti-nuclear economy, and we're still in this high level of consumption economy, right? And the consequences of that are pretty bad. And it's also like how it affects our behavior. I think a lot about it. Because, you know, yesterday I was over meeting the new Commissioner of Agriculture about our hemp farm. And I go there in the Department of Ag, it looks like those guys don't get out a lot. You know what I'm saying? As we become the people that don't get out a lot, you know, we like sit there in our little air-conditioned houses, go to our little air-conditioned cars and look at our little screens of computers, and I mean, y'all don't need a lecture on how many people are just doing that, right? I was like, and then you get the slam down on the polar vortex, and you're like, I guess my world better be a little bigger. Or you know what I'm saying is, it's like sometimes you get out and you say, the world is bigger, it is beautiful, and it is daunting. And from my perspective, I have to say that in this moment in time, like we violated the deal with Mother Earth. Yeah, we all got that, right? We all violated that. We all did. I'm complicit too. I've been trying as hard as I can, you know? My carbon footprint's still pretty high, and my, you know, behavior associated with that. You know, but in getting into that position, like I feel like in the old days, like when we, like our people felt, you know, knew that if you prayed and you kept your agreement, that the Creator would say, okay, I'm gonna give you a break. That's what I feel like. You know, you'd always pray for divine intervention, and well, a lot of times you get that. I'm like, I don't know now, if you violate the deal. You know what I'm saying? When you say uncle to Mother Earth now, I don't know if she gotta give. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. So I think we have the spiritual opportunity to reestablish the agreement and the covenant, which is a lot of the work that you all do. Like, how are we morally, spiritually, ethically, in our behavior, in our actions, reaffirming all of the values that we really believe in? And how are we doing that in this context of also addressing the transformation that is not only social transformation, but it's a structural transformation that has to occur in this society? You know, that's this work that is going on now. So let me just talk a little bit about, you know, where we've been and where we're going. I'm not going to tell you some of your stories because you got them, but I think about, you know, I think about WAMM, and I think about like the control data honeycomb bag, right? I think about going there, and, you know, I think about Marv Davidoff, right? You guys, like, we got some old school poly, you know? You know, I just feel like that there's like this long and committed history to standing for justice. The Excel battles, the General Assembly to stop the power line battles. Y'all remember these battles? You know, a lot of you stood with us in our work to protect our wild rice from getting genetically engineered. Y'all remember that era, 2000 to 2007? You know, where we battled that out. I mean, you guys have, I only know kind of my side of my appreciation and gratitude for your work. You have done so many things that I don't know about. But I kind of have this part of me that's like, if everybody just did their part, you know, we can change things. Everybody just got to do their part. You know, each of us got a certain gift, a certain territory that we cover. You know, you know, I mean, I think we're all pretty astute and aware of kind of the general state of things, and I'm just like, you know, I want to support people in urban area, but I'm not going to be there. I'm like, I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to support you to do your part in some way. I feel like, so just keep that in your hearts, because you all know that's how change is made. You all know that's how change is made. So I'm going to tell you a little of our story, which a lot of you know. You know, I wrote it up, but it was really interesting hearing my introduction, because I think about it, and I started working on kind of the land justice set of issues in '81. And the White Earth Land Recovery Project, which I used to direct, we have 1,400 acres of land that we purchased on the reservation. A lot of you helped support those purchases, and I want to thank you for that. And on that land, you know, that organization, I left the organization in 2013 to do the pipeline battle, because you can't no matter what you think, you can't manage a large organization and manage a pipeline battle at the same time. You all know what I'm saying, right? And it's like, I don't really want to fight Enbridge, but it seems like somebody should. Right? It seems like, right? So, our organization is, land recovery is still doing a lot of local food work and local energy work, and a little bit more quiet now, but but I just want to say that change is made by the hands of individuals, and change is made sometimes when you take your words and you just do it. We just do it. So since 2013, I have devoted about 40 hours a week to fighting the Enbridge Corporation. Not my idea of what we should be doing, but it is really this larger question of, one question is that do corporations own the world? Right? Do they own the water? Do they own the airwaves? Do they own the land? Do they own the state? They certainly own the State Public Utilities Commission. Right? We saw that $11 million single largest lobbying fees ever. You bought yourself a PUC, but they didn't win Minnesota. They got the PUC. Do corporations, should the rights of corporations supersede the rights of humans? No, they should not. And should the rights of corporations supersede the rights of nature? No. To me, the Enbridge battle is not just about a Line 3 question. It's about a question of who gets to decide the future of infrastructure in Minnesota. Right? And I don't think the future of infrastructure in Minnesota should be decided by an oil pipeline company. Everybody in Minnesota knows that we have a D in infrastructure. The country has a D in infrastructure. Water and sewer, bridges collapsing. I was like, I want infrastructure, but I want infrastructure for people. Not for corporations. That's what I want. I want people that are, are union workers. I think about we started fighting Enbridge in 2013 with the announcement of the Sandpiper, which was their fracked oil pipeline project. And MN 350, a lot of I'm really grateful to all our allies down here. We battled them on the Sandpiper for 3 years. We turned out for every regulatory hearing. We built a multiracial alliance, which Minnesota is good at. Even in the North, which we sometimes do refer to as the Deep North. You can work on your relatives a little more up there, help them, that'd be great. But by and large, what you have is, you have a multiracial alliance, filed lawsuits, showed up at every hearing, and then in 2016, the Enbridge Corporation announced the cancellation of the Sandpiper. And they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to do that. They thought since they control Canada, they thought, well, we just control Minnesota. I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. My first meeting with Enbridge, I said, those tribes up there without any running water or electricity in their villages that have diesel generators that you just rode that pipeline through, that have 150 members, we're not them. There's 20,000 in my tribe. Right? There's 50,000 of us in Minnesota. It's not the same thing. You don't know us, And so in 2016, we did defeat them. And those pipes, I just wanted to go back to this pipes thing. I looked at those pipes in that yard, and I think it was Melody from Friends of the Headwaters and a couple of those other ladies and I were like, I think we're just going to drink some wine when them pipes leave. And those pipes are gone. I just want to say, there's very few people that get to see the back of some pipes leaving your territory. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's no so much something like, hey, sorry for all that trouble we caused you. Sorry. They don't say sorry. They just leave, right? And I was like, that was good. We did, but I kept saying, there's people who need pipes in this country. They just aren't here. What about Flint, Michigan? They could use some pipes. Right? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that need pipes. Just not dirty tar sands oil pipes, right? So it's not that I'm opposed to pipelines. I'm opposed to dirty tar sands oil pipelines. And new routes for those. So that kind of woke me up to this whole thing, and I think that, as you know, the story as it goes is that in August of 2016, the Enbridge Corporation announced the cancellation of the Sandpiper, and then a couple days later, they purchased 28% of the Dakota Access Pipeline. And that's how that pipeline was shored up financially, because that company, Energy Transfer Partners, was not doing so well. They were kind of rickety out there. They had a lot of problems, but you know, I wasn't paying attention to that pipeline. I have to say I was like busy on the ground here 40 hours a week focused on Enbridge. And you know, so everything that happened at Standing Rock, when they put the dogs on our people in September 4th, 2016, I called Enbridge. They have someone, first they sent someone out called the Indian tribal liaison. We refer to that person, the tribal liaison, as the Indian whisperer. And then we burned through a couple of Indian whisperers, and then they gave us the Indian listener. They're community relations specialists. So I called them in Calgary. I texted them, wrote them letters. I said, you need to call the dogs off. You know, Enbridge Corporation does not want to be associated with putting dogs on people who are water protectors. And you know what? They did nothing. They did nothing. I said, you need to call for an environmental impact statement. You need to call for a demilitarization. They did nothing. They could have. They had 28% of the interest in that pipeline. They had a lot to pull. And so everything that happened at Standing Rock, the 800 people who got arrested, right? All the people who got injured, all the bullets that flew, the $38 million worth of tanks and militarization that came to North Dakota, I hold them responsible for 28% of that. I do. And we should. Because you don't get to be a corporation that does bad things someplace else and then pretend like you're a good neighbor. Yeah. You know? Because they aren't a good neighbor. Corporations generally aren't good neighbors, by the way. Because their allies and their interests are to their shareholders, not to the communities. Not to the people or to the water. You know? They have no agreement except for with their shareholders. So when they returned with the line 3, you know, we all knew that was coming, because if you got 50-year-old aging infrastructure, you know, you got to fix that stuff. But nobody wants a new tar sands pipeline, it turns out. And so they had to try to bust this new route. And so for 3 years we've been fighting them, and a lot of you have been there with us. And I have to say, you know, I've jumped through every hoop, I've done every backflip, you know, we've threaded every needle, and the PUC does not work. We probably should have learned that during the Excel battle. Public Utilities Commission of Minnesota is wrought with corporate influence. The fact that the commissioner was like, we had to make the decision because we felt like we had a gun to our head. That's what Tuma said. Felt like we had a gun to our head when we made, or Lipschitz said that, I believe. Felt like we had a gun to our head when we approved that pipeline on June 28th of last year. And I was thinking, who's the adult here? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it reminds me of like some raging 11-year-old boy who's like trashed his room and is about to throw his TV out the window because he wants a new bedroom. Until you just give him a new bedroom. I was like, what kind of adult does that? You know, at what point does that bully have to quit? You know, so what is the threat by Enbridge? Our pipes are going to blow, and so we need a new route. I was like, well, close your damn stuff down. Yeah. Close it down. Close it down. You know? And so that's been a lot of our thinking is that, you know, I feel like 6 is enough. I just really feel like 6 lines is enough. And I don't feel like a new corridor that puts pristine lakes at risk is a good idea. You know, and so we did a lot of work on this here. Like, I was like, we try everything, and now we're in court. You know, and what I want to say is that in the big picture of tar sands pipelines, which I did say a little bit in here, 2 years ago there was 5 tar sands pipelines proposed out of Canada. And just to give you a little picture, like everybody thinks Canada's all sweet. But our 2 largest environmental challenges in Canada, Polymet and Enbridge, are Canadian. They represent a country without a plan B for an economy. Their plan is just keep mining and extracting and shoving indigenous people aside and acting all great about it. That's what they're doing. And then just, you know, it's all going to work. I was like, that's the old economy. That's not the next economy. And someone's got to just say, no, we're ready to move on. We're ready to move on. You know, so you know, they have been trying to get that oil out. And so a couple years ago, there was 5 tar sands pipelines proposed. Just to give you like a little picture of this. The first one was called Energy East, going from Alberta to New Brunswick. Trans-Canada, Energy East. Second pipeline is called Enbridge's Northern Gateway, going to what's known as British Columbia or Haida Gwaii. Third pipeline known as Trans Mountain, Kinder Morgan. Fourth pipeline known as Keystone XL. Right, y'all follow me on this? 5th pipeline, Enbridge Line 3. 5 tar sands pipeline. The only way they're going to get the dirtiest oil in the world out is by these pipelines. I mean, they're going to try to truck and train and, you know, do, I don't know what absurd plan they have, but this is the only plan that would work for them, is to have a pipeline. So, Energy East, nobody wanted that. Oh, go figure. No province wanted it. The mayor of Montreal didn't want it. People locked down. Energy East never got approval by the National Energy Board of Canada. That was 2 years ago. The second pipeline, Enbridge's Northern Gateway. They were fought by every tribe, First Nation in the province of British Columbia. They did not get approval by the National Energy Board of Canada. 2 down, right? Y'all follow me on this? They didn't get approvals, right? So the industry is getting more and more nervous, right? Then the third pipeline, Keystone XL. Now, y'all remember what happened with Obama is he didn't issue the border permit. Remember that? Because we all stood there, we all organized, we pushed. He didn't issue that permit to cross the border, right? So that one was dead. And then what happens, Mr. Crazy Man, you know, says, I'm just going to issue a new, you know, first he says, I'm just going to like overturn that. And then the Montana court said, no, you can't just overturn a previous president's executive order. You have to have a reason. And the reason he didn't do it is because of climate change threats. And so has that changed, Mr. Trump? You know, and everybody knows that it has worsened. You know, and so the court in Montana said, no, you cannot proceed with this pipeline. And in fact, those pipe yards you have, the court ruled, are a violation of the National Environmental Policy Act. The pipe yards are, because they presume that you're getting the line and they bias the EIS process. I just want you to remember that because we're going to be turning that shortly. And then what happened here is, so that's in court, and then I believe Trump just issued a brand new permit for that pipeline, and I don't know if that's going to stand or not. But my point is that they aren't doing so well, right? Fourth pipeline, known as Trans Mountain Kinder Morgan pipeline, in, I believe it was August of last year. I don't know if any of you follow this, some of you know. What happened is that the Kinder Morgan company said, oh, nobody wants this pipeline up here. They're all getting arrested. The church people are getting arrested. The older ladies are getting arrested. You know, the Indians are getting arrested. They probably didn't care so much about it. They said, this is socially awkward for us. Why don't y'all work that out, Canada? And so then what did Trudeau do? Trudeau purchased the pipeline. $4.8 billion worth of pipeline. We refer to that pipeline now as Trudeau West. In a very, very controversial move with no clear, and then the next day after he purchased it, the court, the Canadian Court of Appeals in British Columbia, Federal Court of Appeals said, you did not consult with the First Nations. All of your permits are null and void. Okay? So I'm just trying to tell you that things are not going well for the evil, you know, for the fossil fuels industry in British. Y'all follow me on this, right? Leaving what? One more pipeline, line 3, that's us. You know, and Enbridge, you know, Enbridge had thought this was all good in the hood, but it ain't good in the hood in Minnesota. I was like, you know, they've been doing this slick public relations. They said 68,000 people came out and testified against y'all. When the Walz administration came in, they asked us to come down, Tara Halska, my campaigns director, and myself, I think they were like sizing us up, you know, a little sizing up. And I was like, so I sit down there and I said, and it was the day after, or 2 days after, the Catholic workers had turned the valves and closed down the pipe. Right? I was like, I don't think I'm your problem. First the librarians closed down the pipes, and now the Catholics. We're just going to go denomination by denomination. I was like, everybody should just stand up for the, you know, what's it called, the necessity defense. I said, you know, I think I'm your problem here, Governor Walz. And then it's one young aide was sitting across the table with me, and they're like, you know, trying to size us up. And you know, just so you know, Honor the Earth has purchased land. We own the land right next to the pipe route in 2 locations all around. People say, is it going to look like Standing Rock? I said, no. We're going to stop it way before then. Right? We're just going to stop it. Why would I wait? Why would I wait until they got to me? You know what I'm saying? 300 miles of pipe not laid. Half of that is on public land. And who is the public, by the way? We are the public. You know what? On Minnesota DNR land, you can camp for up to 14 days without a permit. Right, exactly. Let's camp, girls. Let's camp. Let's glamp. That's how I refer to it. Let's just glamp. You know, I'm not pup tenting it anymore. Got some campers we're going to be putting on there. I said to that young man, I said, you know, I'm not your problem. I said, you know, we're gonna oppose this line. The tribes all oppose this pipeline, and you don't really want to do that. You don't want a civil war in northern Minnesota. You don't want that. You don't want. I mean, as you probably know, the Enbridge Corporation said that they would pay the police costs for installing this pipeline. I don't know what the legal situation is when a Canadian multinational corporation pays for your police. It's kind of like foreign intervention or something, right? I don't know, but it's like unbelievable to me. I was like, $38 million worth of police costs, you gonna do that, Enbridge? Just, you know, it's gonna be, you know, it's not gonna work. Because I really don't think Minnesota wants to shoot us all for a Canadian corporation. We'll see. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I said, this isn't North Dakota. This isn't North Dakota. We love our lakes. I said, so I was in the governor's office and I said, you know, I'm not your problem. I said, your mother's gonna get arrested with me. And that's what that young aide looked at me and said, yeah, you're probably right. I said, so, you know, this is not about like some brown people in the north. This is about the future of water in Minnesota. It's the same thing as the polynet battle. It's who the heck gets to destroy the water in a place where nobody in the world gets water anymore, but we can still drink the water from our lakes. Why would we relinquish that life? We would not. We would not. And so, you know, I have outlined our legal strategy. A lot of you have been supporting us, and I'm grateful for your support. We all are. Friends of the Headwaters, some of you are with Friends of the Headwaters too, and then, you know, Honor the Earth. We are like basically in every legal intervention with our Jedi lawyers, creating this like legal fog that I can't even understand. You know, and so we are praying because every other pipeline has been stopped in the courts. And we weren't sure if the state was going to join us, but just to give you a little perspective, like last Friday, I believe it was, or the Friday before, Saturday morning at 2:46 a.m. I don't know if anybody noticed this. 2:46 a.m. the Department of Commerce sued the Public Utilities Commission. 2:46 a.m. right? So I'm saying somebody was over there. Yeah, someone was working a little late night. They're like, we're going to make sure no yahoos over there in the Republican caucus get a hold of this. We is filing this right now. So I was like, thank you, 2:46 a.m. filers. My lawyer was like, look at that time. I was like, wow. So, you know, what I believe and what I know is that there are a lot of good people in our state. You know, a lot of places that want to do the right thing, and we got to create the social space for them to do the right thing. And then we got to make sure they do it, and then we got to stand there if it doesn't work. Yeah. You know, I'm going to work really hard to make this system work. Enbridge announced a 1-year postponement for their completion. You know, things are not going as swimmingly as they thought. And in the meantime, the Department of Commerce filed a lawsuit. And then, I don't know if you were watching this, some of you, you know, for those of us who live, I never refer to this as the Midwest, I refer to this as the Great Lakes. You know, I never understood that Midwest, like the mid of what West? You know what I'm saying? It's this really abstract, weird, colonial social context. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is the Midwest? Like, I just live in the Great Lakes, I live in the lakes. You know, but everybody looks at that stuff here, and I don't know if y'all will look at this, but I did put it in the fact sheet, is that, you know, a couple days after the PUC filed out, or the Department of Commerce filed against them, the Michigan Attorney General said, Enbridge, you can't have that pipe underneath the, you can't have that new tunnel underneath the Straits of Mackinac. Y'all see that? You know, Enbridge had this like sweet deal they got in with the outgoing governor, ran this pipe project through, and she said, no, you can't do that. And then I think it's the National Wildlife Federation lawsuit. The court ruled that in fact they did not have a spill plan for the Straits of Mackinac, which is the same problem here. Enbridge does not have a spill plan for Superior. And we all know that Superior is our life. You know, so this is our time to stand for our water. And so I'm asking you to continue joining us and to be water protectors. You know, when we were in North Dakota, they scorned us as water protectors. And you know, one time someone said, you're a protester. I said, no, I'm not. I'm a water protector. I'm not a protester. Don't diminish me. Don't try to like alienate me and act like I'm like, you know, I said, you got a bad idea. We're gonna stop you. That's the story of a lot of your lives. You know, at the same time, what we know is, I had this interesting, I was speaking to a hemp and marijuana conference here. I'm going to talk about that next, but I was talking to this conference and I was like, you know, I just got to be super open about this. Looks like white men have made a lot of bad decisions. You know, I think we just got to say that. And because like 90% of the CEOs of the top 16 corporations are white men. Congress and the Senate, and let's just be honest about it. You know, your decision-making abilities are not only questionable, they're just revoked. Time for the next economy. Time for the next economy. You know, and I'm saying that, I'm just being open about it because I love everybody, but I was like, that's a bad decisions made. We need the new decisions. So I was at this hemp conference looking at a lot of white men, and I was like, no, we're not going to do that same thing. You know, I was thinking about it because, you know, I'm ready for that. You know, in our prophecies, we refer to this as the time of the seventh fire. And as Anishinaabe, we were told that we would have a choice between two paths. Our prophets told us that we would have a choice between two paths. And one path, they said, would be well-worn, that it would be scorched. The other path, they said, would not be well-worn, and it would be green. And it would be our choice upon which path to embark. Pretty much feeling like that's us now. Yeah. Across the board. You know, the Green New Deal, you know, that is it. That's an example of that. That's a political policy example of what the green path looks like. Some people were kind of critical of this and that. I says, you got to start somewhere, sister. You know, you got to start somewhere. And who did that is a bunch of people that we all busted our ass to get elected, right? Did you see that Minnesota had the highest voter turnout of any state in the midterm elections? Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that? I was like, good job. You know, and up north, I don't know if any of you saw that, but like they totally disenfranchised a lot of our voters up north, and you didn't have a poll anywhere near a tribe. You know, wait, do you want to stand up, Miss? Nina, I'm going to stand up. This is Nina Berglund. Nina Berglund is a youth climate intervener opposing Enbridge. And Nina voted for the first time, right? And organized people to vote, right? She went out riding around, and we call it the Res Uber. It was driving people to the polls, right? We'd cross the board. It was like, jump on in, let's go register. Same damn crazy thing as in North Dakota. You'd show up and they'd say, that's not a legal address. And they'd say, that's the only address we got. We live in the middle of housing projects and we have a PO. We had to go like fight for their right to vote. We did. You know, we just got to do it like double it up for the next election, right? Just double it up. You know, eliminate voter suppression and get our people out. You know, and I have to say right now I'm pretty mad at Colin Peterson because he didn't support VAWA. Did you see that Violence Against Women Act reauthorization? Colin Peterson did not support that. I was like, what's wrong with you, Colin Peterson? I'm not going to call him out on that. I mean, I just heard that a couple days ago. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you not support, you know, the bill, the one law that helps, you know, Indian women a little bit in our situation of, you know, third largest cause of death is violent crime against us. I was like, why wouldn't you, what's wrong with you? You know, but I feel like that in the next election, you know, we're going to get more people out. But we all know that, you know, voting is really important because you actually need to like enlighten people in. That's like super helpful. I met with the Commissioner of Agriculture yesterday. He asked me to come visit with him. So I'm a hemp farmer. Did y'all see my stuff, huh? Did you see my little picture? It looks like I'm in the 70s. Isn't that great? So I'm going to tell you my little story because basically what I want to say is that I'm ready to move to the next economy. I'm gonna fight this last bit of fossil fuels economy down to the end because they're done. They're done. 8% drop in oil sands production in Canada. 8% drop because they don't have a damn pipeline. I was like, oh, just cry so hard for you. Right? Maybe it's time to evolve. You know, what's that next economy look like? We see pieces of it here, but you know, I have this immense privilege of like, I get to live and work in my own community, I get to do cool stuff there, and then I like wander around and see cool people doing cool stuff. You know, I think about stuff like cars and trains, for instance. Combustion engine is 16% efficient. Electric engine is 65% efficient. What kind of dumb society drives around in a 16% efficient vehicle? Us. I was like, you know, if people want, I mean, it's just like, you know, how, you know, you need to be able to get around. We obviously, we need to reconfigure our cities so we don't have to drive. Y'all understand, like, the structural opportunity of this moment. Of rebuilding local economies, right? And then if you're going to cruise around, you should probably have something electric, because you can at least power that, you know? Then I was looking at these guys called Solutionary Rail. Have you seen their stuff yet? Super interesting, like way over my league. But they're like every other country. We have like a train system that's an embarrassment to Bulgaria. Right, y'all know what I'm saying. You know, if you go anywhere else in the world, or if you go to Europe, you're like, I'll take the train, it's gonna be all easy, right? I mean, I just make that up because I'm kind of phobic about like a lot of things like that. But I do it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going on that train, it's gonna be great. You know, would I have not liked to take a train from Detroit Lakes here? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, not like the 3 a.m. arrive set, you know what I'm saying, is it gets in at 3 a.m. Well, they used to have something up there called the Galloping Goose. Did you ever hear about that? Some of you remember that, right? It was like a train that went all the way through all those cabins, and then they get in their station wagon and go from their station wagon to the lake cabin. Interesting idea of local train systems, right? Rebuilding it. Now, if you just think about it, like the world actually operates, like the enlightened world has electric trains. Most of Europe, their trains are electric. We're like the last ones. We're like 1% electric. They're like 75% electric. Moving by rail is more efficient than moving by car because of the friction of a tire on the road versus metal on metal. Y'all follow me on this stuff? So you would rebuild an electric train system here that made sense. And you would run it on renewables. And the way that these guys, Solutionary Rail, had it is that you would use that as a conduit to move electricity to. You set up your electric lines along the rail, and you'd have distributive power and collect power and move it along those same right-of-ways. I was like, well, that's some revolutionary thought. Y'all kind of follow me on this? It's like, what's the next economy look like? Start envisioning it, right? You take, you know, you start cutting transportation costs, and we already cut by like 20% our fuel. We could do a lot more. We need to just keep doing that. You know, Enbridge is only going here anyway, don't worry about that. They just bought an offshore terminal, another offshore terminal off of Texas. So it's like, no, this ain't coming here. You know, we gotta keep doing that. And then we gotta do some relocalizing. And then, you know, we're all gonna continue our work on local food. A lot of you know our long work protecting not only wild rice from genetic engineering, but besides that, our work with a lot of you to, you know, ensure that we rebuild the rice economy. And I feel like, you know, wild rice, if you can rice the same lake for 10,000 years. I was like, that's what a sustainable economy looks like. Like, why would you mess that up? If you could get food, and all you gotta do is take care of your lake. All you gotta do. You know, we have the potential to do all that, and we just need to just keep doing it. So I'm saying, it's like, I'm gonna fight the bad guys, but I'm gonna make the green path. And it is going on everywhere, and y'all know that. Like everywhere people are relocalizing food systems, right? Everywhere people are putting up solar gardens. We still got a huge battle at the Public Utilities Commission on net metering. Y'all, you know what I'm talking about on this, where you gotta blow the top off the limit so that we're not in the ghetto. Like you could do 100, you know, or 2 megawatts. You know what I'm saying? Is like you just need a different gig on that. So I tried over the past few years. But you guys hung out with me for a while. Like I try everything. I'm like, I'll try this. You know, go over there. So I ran for both tribal chair, which was like super crazy because we're like a lot of lateral oppression. But then I ran for the rural co-op board. So I was like, I'm a member of the rural co-op. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The rural co-ops in the north. Itasca Nantrap's mine. So I run for it, and I was like, I'm running on renewable energy, and efficiency, and energy security. Like, I figured, like, that's legit, right? Bunch of old guys on there, same old guys for generations. I run in there and get the most, we didn't really know how to vote, so we could probably organize it for the next time to do it, but then I went to the Park Rapids meeting, and I swear to God, there was like 400 older white people that turned out to vote against me. I was like, that's so sad. You know, it hurt my feelings a little bit, and I was like, I mean, then I realized it's not my bags, it's theirs. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But so, like, what was my response to that? I was like, well, Our tribe's going to have a public utilities commission, and we're just going to take over our own power. We're going to pull ourselves off your grid if you're going to be all backwards like that, right? That's kind of my strategy generally. Is like, we try to work with them, and then if you're a tribe and they don't want to work with you, which is the case up north, they laughed at Red Lake, was putting up 2 megawatts, they're like, you ain't going to do that. I was like, well, just watch. You just watch. And then we're going to work to create a regional tribal grid, right? I mean, because you know there's like crazy stuff going up north. Like Polymed's going to take like a whole new equivalent of like a nuclear power plant to power that baby. Y'all know that, right? The Enbridge pipelines are the equivalent of 2 nuclear power plants. They're equivalent of 2 prairie islands. I was like, how do we use energy? Doing a lot of dumb stuff like extreme mining. Or substations. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, what if we quit doing dumb stuff with energy and we just did a lot more cool stuff, you know? So we're doing renewable energy. Now, Marlis Weber here, she helped us, and some others in supporting our, we just built a solar thermal panel manufacturing facility. That sounded like really long, solar thermal panel manufacturing facility. What is that? So that's like, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit of solar, but we have fuel poverty in the north. It's cold, y'all got that. And a lot of us have south-facing walls that if you put this solar thermal panel on the side of it, you can save 20% of your heating bill. Because it's kind of like this dark spot that it gets, you know, it's like got glass, and it's dark in there, and then it gets hot. Because in the winter in Minnesota, it's still cold, but it's still sunny, right? A lot of times it's sunny. So they go on there and it gets hot, and as soon as it hits 90 degrees, it'll flip the thermostat in your house. And it'll make it possible for you know, you to save about 20% of your heating bill. Now what kind of, you know, that sounds like a smart thing to do. Like not pay for more heat, just like, right? So this group up there called REAL, Rural Renewable Energy Alliance, they've been building them for a few years, and then they just moved into solar photovoltaics, right? But I was like, I want to do that. So we have this complicated technological transfer agreement and all this stuff, but we just finished completion of the facility, and starting in May, we're going to be rolling out solar thermal panels, like 4x8. I think it's about $1,500 per panel. And you can put them on a south-facing wall. It's called Aking Solar, Eat the Fire. It's in our newsletter. It's placed in our newsletter. So what am I telling you? It's like sometimes you just do it, right? We can sit there and be victims, but who wants to be a victim? You know, what if you're this poor community that doesn't have, like, nothing's going to trickle down to? And that community is where I served by that Itasca man trap, and I was like, well, we're just going to do solar then. You know, I mean, I'm tired of y'all with your drank too much coal from North Dakota approach, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like too much Kool-Aid for crying out loud. I was like, let's just do this. So we're, you know, I'm really proud of our little project. This is kind of what the Green New Deal looks like on the ground. You know? And then now I give you my stuff from my hemp farm. Now I used to listen to all these cool people saying hemp is the future. And I'd be like, oh, you know, I quit smoking pot. I don't really know that much about it. I was like super judgy. Like hemp sounded like a really good idea. That was a really good idea. Trudell, John Trudell. How many of you remember John Trudell? Yeah, I mean, a great mentor and teacher and leader and prophet. And he'd always talk about hemp, and I'd be like, yeah, John, I think that's a good idea. John, you know, and I was kind of judgy. I totally admit it. Even me. I was kind of judgy. I was like, yeah. Now I'm like, hemp is the future. I'm like, you were right, John. You are so right. So 3 years ago, going on 4 years ago, I became a hemp farmer. I'm a fiber farmer. Hemp fiber. Why am I that? Because Minnesota used to have 11 hemp mills. We grew a lot of our clothing and all of our campus and all of our rope. All them sails on them sail ships, those are all hemp. I mean, even the word canvas comes from the word cannabis. Huh. When I heard that, I was like, huh. Wow. You know, totally everywhere, right? Now, of course, it was, you know, illegalized and demonized in the 1940s, right? And then when it was illegalized and demonized, you know, everybody said it was because of, you know, marijuana, but I think actually hemp was the target. Hemp was the target because with hemp you don't need to clear cut forests. With hemp you don't need plastics, and we don't need plastics as a matter of fact. Right now we want to get rid of them. They're in our ocean, they're killing our whales, they're killing everything. They're killing everything. It's like time to move beyond plastic. Enrich is always like, you can't live without plastics. And like, yes, I can. You know, single use, done. Get your, you know, so I was like, I started on this hemp thing about 3 years ago. I decided I want to do fiber hemp. Of course, that's me. I'm the person who always has to do the hardest thing. Like, I can't do like the CBDs. I do CBDs too. I have some of my tea over here, my CBD tea. You know, but I was like, no, I want to go fiber hemp. And so we started, and we have this great crop. You guys have my little flyer, but we're going to build a hemp mill. That's going to be the first hemp mill in Minnesota in 100 years or something, right? In 1943, the last one was closed down. I believe the last operating hemp mill in the United States. I just want to say this is what I understand. Someone can correct me, but this is from my hemp research. The last operating hemp mill in the United States was in Winona, Minnesota. I was like, let's go, Winona. You know, there was a lot of them in southern Minnesota. Thief River Falls just closed down. They had a linen mill. You know, so I was at this one pipeline hearing, and they're talking about jobs. They're like, their little job thing. I said, those ain't long-term jobs. You know, this isn't about jobs. This is about oil. Don't pretend this is about jobs. You know, I said as Thief River Falls representative was there, I walked in that hearing. They were super nice to me at that hearing. I have to say the Republican chair said, I'm going to hold the recess and let Winona talk. I was like, thank you. I was like, really appreciated that. I was like, they were gracious to me, and I'm pretty gracious at this. And I said, you know, this is not about jobs. I said, I'm going to give you an example of the town of Clearbrook, Minnesota. Clearbrook, Minnesota has a big Enbridge terminal in it. Tank farm. Tank farm, they call it tank farm. I mean, how could be a tank farm? Crazy, you know? Tank farm. Anyway, it's super automated. 15 people work at that big facility. 15 people. In that town of Clearbrook, Minnesota, so I testified at the hearing. There was a guy from Clearbrook there. I said, in that town of Clearbrook, they used to have the Good Samaritan nursing home that took care of all those older farmers, people from that area. That employed 50 people. And that closed down last year. And so all those people and all those families had to find a place. But those were good jobs. 50 people took care of elders from these communities. That was good jobs. And Enbridge just stood by and let that all close down. So, you know, I said, where was your hearing? This was a jobs committee. I said, where was your hearing on that? Where was your hearing on that? You know what I mean? Is what we want is jobs that, so I told him, I said, we want jobs. I said, I want hemp mills up there. I want jobs we ain't fighting over, hating on each other over. I want jobs that are good for everybody, right? So for the past 3 years, I've been growing this hemp, and I've been wandering around. I'm trying to find the pieces. It's like trying to find a unicorn. I got myself a decorticator from China. I've got a few lines. There's the Romanian equipment. There's the vintage equipment. There's some equipment in Canada. I'm going to buy some equipment and start a small operation to begin to reboot the industry. My goal is to make canvas. People are like, you going to make t-shirts so I can wear t-shirts? I said, no. I'll make canvas. Because everybody could use canvas. We could get rid of all those tarps. I said I could sell my fancy canvas to like Duluth Pack. Or you know what I'm saying. Or maybe I'll sell it to Patagonia if they want it. I said, but that's what I want to do. You know, I'm not here to make like little, you know, little stuff that you can accessorize with. You know, so I want to change the world. That's why I'm doing textiles, right? And I just say that because that's our opportunity is to create the next economy. And to me, that is local, that's organic, that's renewable energy, that's efficient, right? It's got decision-making that is based on the well-being of women and children at the beginning and, you know, throughout, right? And it is in textiles. I mean, we're all looking at the fact that a t-shirt and jeans uses 5,000 gallons of water. Most of us are wearing stuff made of fossil fuels. And they stilled the mills in this country and shipped them off to China and India in the 1980s and 1990s. We don't even make any of that anymore. I was like, time to do it again. The next economy must be local, must be organic, must reaffirm relationships between people, must be fair, must be just. And we'll make that vision now. You know, and that's what we're doing. So that's, basically what I want to say is, I'm going to ask you to join us and to continue your support for us in fighting the last tar sands pipeline. That's what I call this, the last tar sands pipeline. It's kind of like the last airbender, the last dragon tamer. You know what I'm saying? It's like the last tar sands pipeline. I'll explain to you why I think of it as that. They're done. They're done. They're done. And so we just got to stay strong, Minnesota. Enbridge is still clearing land up there. Enbridge did a core sample. We own the land next to the Mississippi River crossing that they will have to make. A bunch of your friends helped us buy that land. We own 80 acres on the Mississippi right next to where Enbridge on public land thinks it's going to make that crossing. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know? Before that, I want to say is that this summer, and we invite you to come north. People say, are you going to camp? I say, well, what I'm going to do is organize a bunch of visits to the pipe yards. There are 7 pipe yards. And my position is that no pipe should move. There's only one way in and one way out of the pipe yards. So I'm going to go stand up in front of the pipe yards if those permits are ever issued and not let them pipes move. I'm not going to wait until they get to my land, because it's all our land. Just don't let them out. Just stand. And I think if a lot of women stand in front of those yards, we'll have picnics, we'll have dance celebrations. I feel like I'm already orchestrating what a fabulous celebration this could be of life. Yes. I got a hard time. So keep that in your mind. Keep an eye on us at Honor the Earth and stop line 3 on that. And then help us build the next economy. I want to thank you for your time. I guess I kind of forgot how long I'm supposed to talk, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer a few. Yeah.
We'll have some time for question and answer. My name is Lucia. I wanted to say one little thing to you, but cook up in your head your question for Winona. And I want to say something to you about remembering, 36 years ago when the WAMM founders started WAMM. And they were thinking about wouldn't it be best to have a place, an office, telephones, and ultimately staff people. But oh my gosh, that's going to cost money. And how are we going to do that? And then they raised some money to make that happen. And so I want to say something. I'm thinking about 2 things. I'm thinking a lot about things Winona just talked about, and that wall. And I'm thinking about WAMM. I'm thinking about think about when you were a little kid. And I want to say to you, if you were like me in the household I grew up in, I was brought up to be a good girl, and to follow the rules and obey and trust that those people we elected knew what was best for us, and everybody, people in authority, they knew what. And when I grew up a little more, I questioned that. But then there's another step, and that's what happens when you know you have to take some action. And if you were brought up to be a good girl, that can be scary. So I have my little tricks that I play on myself, like my scarf. Now, I'm not trying to tell you you have to be a carnivore or be vicious, but you could be a little feisty. just see this little lady in a pretty scarf, but they don't know I'm thinking about how to be feisty. Okay? And that's the wham in me, you know, how to be a little and also a little playful. And I know that you know about, is it Emily Balsh-Green, who said we have a long way to go on the road to justice and peace. I'm paraphrasing her here. She was in the 19-teens with Women's International League, and she said we have a long, long road. And groping our way in the dark, we'll find each other's hands. And that reminds me of a friend named Carol, who said every day at the end of every day in the evening, if she thought about her day and she could not think of one thing she had done to promote peace and justice, she hadn't written a postcard or signed a letter or sent something, made a phone call to an official. She hadn't stood on the bridge with a sign, which is yet another way to educate people. If she had talked with a friend about peacemaking, or a stranger, if she couldn't think of one thing she had done all day, she sat down at the end of the day and wrote a check. So I invite you now to write a check. Or, if you have cash, that's perfectly acceptable. WAMM would like to pass along some money to Winona as an honorarium, so think about that. Think about supporting women and men through WAMM being feisty and keeping an office and a staff and phones working as we carry on the long road and find each other's hands. So I know that baskets will be going around. I see baskets. Baskets are coming. Oh, Sophia and Fiona, if you don't have cash or check, but you have a credit card or a debit card, they can take care of those over at that table in the corner. So thank you so much for supporting WAMM. Oh, and Pepper has a card, square reader also. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we start the questions and answers, I would like anyone that does not want to be photographed to raise their hand. For whatever reason, whether you came out of jail or protest or whatever. Okay, now, Winona, have you got questions that you'd like to ask Winona?
I have a couple things too. We have a bunch of these signs. We want you to get them back out. Some of them got weatherized. They've been going a long time, but we need a reboost of the signs so people know we're there. Anyway, yes, I see you have a question. I can
two questions. One is the microphone working?
Talk right into it. Give the
I am
microphone.
talking right into it. Better?
I don't know if it's loud. I'm hard of hearing, so I'm just going to stand here and listen to you.
All right. Can anybody not hear me?
Use the microphone.
I guess it's working. Two questions. The first is the Department of Commerce, after they did their report, I mean, it was pretty clear. I thought we had it. And for the Public Utilities Commission to make that change, my understanding is all of those commissioners were appointed by a Democratic governor. Not that that really matters, but I would think that it kind of does. So how did we miss that? I mean, how did that happen, if there's any insight that you have? The other piece is, can we win still? I'm wondering about this. Do you know what I'm saying?
It came this way.
Yeah, I mean, good questions, both of them. I mean, first of all, the Public Utilities Commission went rogue. You know, we just have to say that. They went against every recommendation by every agency, including the Department of Commerce, which had done all of those hearings, 68,000 pieces of, testimony, and then the administrative law judge reviewing everything. Neither of them recommended issuing the route and the permit, permit and the certificate of need. It was a totally rogue decision. And so to pretend like that was like, to be expected, it was only to be expected if you spent $11 million and cheat the system. We all want the system to work. I mean, we all want we want some kind of regulatory governance system. I don't want to worry about it every day. It irritates the heck out of me that I go down there and try to make those guys do their job. So that's why we all are suing them. I mean, the Department of Commerce said it was legally indefensible what they did. They would not have sued if they didn't, and this new administration would not have sued if it was not absolutely clear that there was a violation of the law. So I'm hoping that the courts will stop this pipeline. Every other pipeline has been stopped in the courts, but the people are going to need to make the pipeline stop. I mean, we can say that the court system is going to go on, but what Waltz has said on a number of occasions is that they don't have a social license. They don't. But it's more than, for me it's like, no, you don't get line 3. No, you don't get line 3. And I will stand and I will put my body on the line. You're going to have to shoot me to come out and get that pipeline. I'm going to stand right in front of it. It's not going to work. And enough of us do that. Minnesota's not North Dakota. I think that there's no social license, and I think that they will, we will stop it like that. And so that is what I'm committed to. And at the same time, it's like, it's this larger corporate liability question. Like, how did we get to the fact that this corporation has these pipes that are leaking, and nobody's closing their stuff down? What happens, everybody knows that. What happens is that it's all good until they have a major catastrophe, and then they declare bankruptcy and they're gone. Right? Union Carbide. W.R. Grace. I mean, the list is very long. And then they change their name, and that's why a corporation can't actually be a person, because if you change your name enough times and are bought and rebought, you have like a multiple personality disorder. Right? You're totally not fit to stand. Make your own. I mean, that totally, multiple personality disorder. So, these larger questions of, because we got old pipes in this state. I want them regulated and I want the system phased out. But I want them regulated and cleaned up now. So to me, it's this larger set of questions, on Enbridge. So we do have we have a shot at it, but we're going to need your help. And like I said, I'm going to be calling for, I'm hoping that people will join us at the pipe yards. We have some maps of where the pipe yards are, and we'll just all go hang out there together. I think this summer I'm encouraging people, and we'll be putting up sites where you can come camp. I'm just saying, let's just come enjoy the North. I mean, what are we fighting for? We're fighting for our water. So go be in the great North. Come see our great water. Put your prayers out and be grateful, because we have water. So come north this summer. We're going to have a set of events and invite people up north, and then get familiar with the pipe yards. I mean, that's going to be a big problem for them. You understand what I'm saying? That's going to be a really big problem for them. So, but more important perhaps is also just keep moving to the next economy. Because everybody's like, well, what am I going to do if I don't have oil? I was like, he's going to not do the oil thing anymore. Because that's what it's like. It's just like dealing with an addict. Because we're all in there. It's like addict behavior. It's like, what am I going to do? I need a transition drug. It was like, where's the sister who rode her bike here? She's been riding her bike for right there. She rode her bike for 30 years, She don't even ever ride it for, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, rebuild your economy so it's a little more local, get some trains in there, and have a little vision about what we want instead of being victims and letting a bunch of dumb guys and corporations make decisions, because it's got us a lot of problems, Across the board. I mean, you guys are looking at the same stuff I'm looking at. I'm worried about 5G now. Are we worried about that one yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm about to do, and I think the PUC regulates that too. I'm like, no, you don't want 5G. I might fry all our brains, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's like in Verizon when we roll out 5G, I just think someone should just say no. Just because you think, I don't need any more kids streaming basketball games in my living room on their cell phones. Really? Y'all got kids that do that too, right? I was like, oh, I'm just over here like what she is. Anyway, I'm sorry. Other questions? Yes.
Well, this is a recommendation to everybody. Okay. Winona has a great book, The Militarization of Indian Country, that's really appropriate for this group. And I think you still have a lot of copies, Winona?
We do have a lot of copies. I don't know what we brought today. We might have just brought the Chronicles. We have about a third of the book. We have a chunk of the book.
But I think we start to look several book groups because that really goes into the roots of militarism.
Yeah.
So thanks for everything, Winona.
Yeah, in the back. There's a guy in the back there. Yeah.
I want to bring up a little different concept. The guaranteed basic income.
Yeah.
Because as we transition...
Use the microphone.
Just talk.
I'll bring up the concept of the guaranteed basic income. Because as we transition, people are going to be thrown out of work and a lot of things happen. I know Naomi Klein spent about 3 pages with it, and this changes everything, and she considered that a very vital thing. And it's not a new concept. It goes back to Nixon and the guaranteed annual income.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I support that we should have a guaranteed annual income. We should have like justice for people. You know, I mean, this is like a first world country at some level, and I feel like people should be able to have like some basic support, right? And at the same time, I'm gonna just be super honest with you. My interest is actually in the post-petroleum reduced cash economy. Yeah, I'm just trying to say, like, my tribe spends $8 million a year buying food from off-reservation. I was like, what if we all grew a lot more? Yes. Right, you know what I'm saying? The victory garden idea, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't need to buy everything. You need to either grow or you need to have a friend who grows. Yes. Right? You know, my tribe spend that much money. My tribe spend, you know, I'm not going to fight for the people's right to pay higher electric bills. I'm going to try to reduce the bill. You know, and generate it locally. You see what I'm saying? Is like we need an economy that is not based on how much money you have, that your security is based on actually that that you have that security locally. And in a time of climate change, get real. You know, you're not going to be able to buy your way out of this baby. You better have some more local food. You better have some local energy. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is like, let's be those people that, like, you know, your grandparents, my grandparents. I mean, this fossil fuel stuff is pretty recent. You know, there's some bad decisions made in the past 100 years that are pretty devastating. But before that, like, I live in the north, I live around a lot of Finlanders. Those guys are pretty self-sufficient. You know, they were like really self-sufficient bunch. You know, and so I feel like that's part of my, you know, strategy is how you reduce the amount of cash needed in this society, because you have a lot more local, and you have an economy that's based on, because the word economy doesn't necessarily have to do with cash, it has to do with wealth. Right? And wealth is not necessarily money. Wealth is more if you have good health, right? Reduce your bills. I mean, who wants to have, I mean, y'all don't need this lecture. Y'all had it. But let's just be the people that figure out how to live healthier and have a healthier society and a basic guaranteed income. But reduce some of the crazy vagaries of the fossil fuel economy, cash crisis. So, all right, that was a long answer. Okay, one more question, I think, and then I think some of you guys are probably ready to go.
I was wondering how many people had heard about or understood this. This fight against the pipelines is also a fight against war on Venezuela because the tar sands fight has been so successful, and slowing these pipelines has been so successful that now the U.S. is going after Venezuela oil because it's the same kind of dirty oil that they want to process in Clearwater, Texas, by the Koch brothers, their refinery. So for Women Against Military Madness, this is definitely our fight to keep going in both areas.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, early on when I started watching these pipelines, I was like, because they're replumbing North American energy infrastructure for the tar sands. The energy infrastructure was set up for the Gulf Coast, which was Venezuelan oil, and since the United States was so busy hating on Venezuela for all those years, they didn't want to, you know, the largest oil reserves in the world are in Venezuela. And so it's been a war for many years about access to Venezuelan oil on the terms the U.S. wanted as opposed to the terms Venezuelans wanted. And so in order to reduce that relationship, that's why they went for the tar sands. They're like, we don't have to deal with, you know, Chavez, we'll just go for the tar sands. You know, so it's been always a ploy about, you know, I'm not in favor of oil anywhere, but when, you know, Venezuelan oil was probably as close to fair trade oil as you were going to get in the Western Hemisphere at some level. You know, but what we need to do is, you know, recognizing totally that relationship of the new, you know, political strategy to take over more of Venezuela. But then the other side of it is that, let us just be honest, is that we just need to quit being jerks, you know, that feel entitled to oil from everywhere. And how we do that. Minnesota's doing that. We have like a 20% reduction in our, you know, Minnesota's good. We just got to keep at it and then inform. So, thank you for that.
I just want to say that one thing that I've started to do at home when Trump comes on the TV, which I always either scream or holler or run out of the room. So I decided every time he comes on the screen, if I'm in that room, I will just laugh and laugh and laugh. And not belligerently, not because we, you know, want to put him down, but really laugh at what he is saying, because he is laughable. So if you want to try that at home, what if that goes out all over the world, just people laughing at him? Maybe it will make a difference.
I mean, I just think we should laugh and be happy as much as possible, because they're a miserable bunch. You know what I'm saying? It's just like part of why we are so awesome is that we're not. You know, not only that, but we're happy and grateful. And I still think we're funnier than they are.
I just want to thank Winona for her wonderful